You're still awake, not because you're celebrating, because sleep won't come. It's past midnight, past the noise, past the countdowns and fireworks and forced joy. And you're still there, eyes open, phone glowing, room quiet. You told yourself you'd sleep after midnight, you always do, but something in you didn't want the night to end. Or maybe didn't want the year to officially begin. That pause you're sitting in, that's not accidental. And if this is hitting uncomfortably close already, it's because this isn't about insomnia. It's about recognition. People assume staying up all night on New Year means partying, or excitement, or chaos. But for you, it's the opposite. It's stillness. It's observation. It's a kind of silent watchfulness. You're not avoiding sleep. You're avoiding something else. You scroll slowly. Not for fun, not even for distraction. You're watching the world mark time without you. Photos of raised glasses, smiling couples, group hugs, captions about gratitude, growth, and best year ever. And what you feel isn't jealousy exactly. It's not sadness in a clean, obvious way. It's a muted pressure, a dull awareness, like being the only sober person in a loud room. This is where emotional numbness quietly lives, not as emptiness, but as overload. Staying up tonight isn't rebellion, it's vigilance. Your mind is busy doing emotional labor no one asked it to do. You're reviewing the year, not the highlight reel, but the subtext, the conversations you never finished, the expectations you carried functionally, while something underneath stayed unresolved. When the rest of the world sleeps, your nervous system finally has permission to speak, and it chooses tonight. There's a particular psychology behind this. People who stay up all night on New Year often have a complicated relationship with endings and beginnings. Not dramatic, not tragic, just complicated. You don't trust clean transitions. You've learned that calendars don't magically reset patterns, that promises made at midnight don't repair what's been wearing you down quietly for months. So instead of celebrating a symbolic shift, you stay conscious through it, as if witnessing the moment will give you some control over what comes next. You might notice how alert you feel despite the exhaustion. That's self-regulation in overdrive. Your body is tired, but your mind is scanning, checking, comparing. Social comparison sneaks in here. Not the obvious kind where you want what others have, but the subtler kind where you wonder why you don't feel what others seem to feel, why their joy looks effortless, why your inner world requires so much management. You're not measuring success, you're measuring resonance. And there's something else too, a quiet loneliness that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't say, "I'm lonely." It says, "I don't want to perform tonight." You don't want to send messages that don't feel true. You don't want to post reflections you don't fully believe. You don't want to participate in collective optimism when your internal experience is more ambiguous. That restraint is integrity, not detachment. But it can feel isolating when everyone else seems fluent in celebration. You may recognize this pattern beyond New Year. Being the one who stays awake, who notices shifts before they're acknowledged, who senses emotional undercurrents others ignore. This is empathic attunement, your awareness tuned outward and inward at the same time. It makes you perceptive. It also makes rest difficult, especially on nights loaded with symbolism, especially when the world insists you should feel something specific. There's often an attachment layer here too, not in a clinical sense, in a lived one. If you lean avoidant, staying awake is a way to keep distance from feelings that might demand vulnerability. If you lean anxious, it's a way to stay connected to the moment, to not miss something that might finally resolve the tension you've been carrying. Either way, sleep becomes secondary to meaning, and New Year is heavy with meaning. Notice how the night feels different after midnight. Quieter, emptier, more honest. This is when the relief creeps in. Not happiness, relief. The pressure to react dissolves. The messages slow. The feeds quiet down.
And for the first time all day, you can just exist without commentary. That relief tells you something important. You weren't waiting for celebration. You were waiting for permission to stop responding. Staying up all night can also be an unconscious refusal of external validation. You're not chasing likes or wishes or shared enthusiasm. You're sitting with your internal world, even if it's uncomfortable, especially if it's uncomfortable. Internal validation is quieter than external approval, but it's heavier. It asks you to acknowledge what's actually there, not what's socially acceptable. And tonight, what's there might be confusion, or fatigue, or a strange calm emptiness that isn't sadness, just absence of noise. You might be wondering if something is wrong with you for feeling this way, for feeling nothing when you're supposed to feel everything. But emotional numbness isn't the absence of emotion. It's the result of too much emotion without enough space to process it. Staying up all night becomes that space, a liminal zone where you don't have to label anything yet, where you can let the year end without forcing a narrative. Think about the archetype you fit into. You're not the life of the party. You're the one cleaning up afterwards. Not literally, emotionally. You hold context. You remember details. You absorb contradictions. That cognitive load doesn't disappear just because the date changes. So you sit with it, awake, aware, watching the clock turn without expecting it to fix anything. And there's a subtle power in that, even if it doesn't feel empowering. You're not outsourcing your sense of time to a countdown. You're experiencing the transition in real time, unfiltered. That doesn't make you superior. It makes you honest. Honesty is rarely celebratory. It's usually quiet. It usually looks like this: alone, awake, thoughtful, slightly detached from the noise. As the night stretches on, you might feel faint resentment. Not toward people, toward expectations, toward the idea that you're supposed to summarize your life in a caption, package your growth into a sentence, declare optimism on command. That resentment isn't bitterness. It's self-respect colliding with social ritual. You don't want to lie, even politely. Eventually, the sky will start to lighten. The night will loosen its grip, and you'll realize you made it through another symbolic moment without pretending, without collapsing into despair or forcing hope. Just witnessing. That matters more than it seems, because awareness is not passive. It's an active stance, and choosing to stay conscious emotionally and literally through a moment most people sleepwalk through says something precise about you. You don't need fireworks to register time. You don't need noise to mark change. Feeling nothing right now doesn't mean you're disconnected. It means you're paying attention to a quieter signal. One that doesn't translate well to posts or parties, but shapes your inner world in ways that compound over years. Staying up all night on New Year isn't a flaw. It's a pattern, one rooted in self-awareness, in sensitivity to transitions, in a refusal to rush emotional truth. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're just awake in a world that prefers sleep. And maybe that's the real reason this night belongs to you.